Hey y'all, I am VictorY. I help provide insight to empower, and I wanted to share something that came up within me just now about thoughts and how I've learned to navigate them. So the way I grew up watching my mom especially and my dad with his presence was everybody seemed very checked out. And that's a lot of what I see today. So a lot of my work has been with presence. A lot of my work has been with researching trauma and learning how to heal my own wounds, my own stuff, clear out my own baggage. But it all comes back to presence. Growing up, I saw my mom prefer to be with her thoughts and completely checked out and staring out the window than be with her own family. I saw my dad prefer to be at work with his friends and or drunk than be with his family, but also with what he was seeing. It became a way of not just coping, but of escaping. And that brings me to my first point. If there was something that my traumas could say, or my programs, or whatever you want to call it, my inner child could say, it would be that the present is where the bad shit happened. The present is where the bad shit happened. And from what I've learned and what I've seen growing up, what I've come to realize is that whenever I get triggered and whenever I've looked back and saw that my mom would have a really strong reaction to something, a person, whenever they get triggered, it's usually in those moments where we're in thought, we have an expectation, we're in a cycle of action and reward, and someone or something is keeping us from the reward. Now, for me personally, and more in line with what inspired this video, was an act of faith. This is especially ironic, I would say, because it was kind of in conversation with myself and kind of about my mom, as usually has been the case. My mom is a very religious, or has been a very religious woman, and it's something that she was very dogmatic and fanatical about growing up. So it's something that I completely went the opposite way in. But in reconciling with my past, what I've seen is that I cannot be well and do well for myself without some exercise, some practice in having faith. Not necessarily religious faith, but the act of trusting myself, most of all, that I got this, that things are going to be okay. Coming back to what I learned from my mom and the irony of her being religious, for me, it is an act of faith to let go of a thought. because I saw my mom and my dad also be with their thoughts more than being with the moment or being with me or being with my sisters. No matter what, they were always in thought or something. In thought, or like in escaping thought, in escaping the moment. So seeing my parents in that way, I unknowingly internalized the behavior, the practice of being with my thoughts, of listening to my thoughts as if they were my parents. And when I first got into meditation, somebody told me once, you are not your thoughts, you are not thinking your thoughts, you are the one simply observing and listening to them. And when I identified with the listener, the observer, rather than the one who was creating the thoughts and then judging myself for the thoughts that I was having, everything shifted, everything changed. Because if I'm the one listening, then I get to be the one who chooses what I listen to. Coming back to that act of faith, of letting go of the thought, I'm letting go of the thought for the moment. I'm letting go of thinking about who I want to be with, who I hope to be with, who I hope to be, and keeping the feeling there, being present with the feeling, but also being present, listening to, observing the moment, the way the light hits, let's say, my face on this camera right now, the sounds outside my sliding glass door, the crickets, chirping, the wind chimes, the traffic in the distance, choosing to be engaged with that, choosing to listen to that, choosing to observe and be engaged with how my body feels, how this moment, how the entirety of this moment feels, and relaxing into it, rather than choosing unknowingly, at first, choosing to, in almost like in a victimized kind of way, having to be subjected to my thoughts, rather than now choosing when to listen to my thoughts, choosing when to listen to the moment, choosing what train of thought I want to observe, and choosing when I say, I don't like this thought, I don't like what my mind is bringing to me, I don't like what my mind is formulating or creating, come back to me with something better. And then choosing to be engaged with the sights and sounds and smells and feel of the moment, rather than choosing the feeling of being subjected to my thoughts. The reason I say insight to empower is because insight is nothing without having something to practice, having something to take with you, to take home, that you can then put into practice. If I want to be insightful, if I want to feel empowered, for me that starts with presence. And then that begs the question, how? realizing I am the one who is listening, is feeling. It starts there. And then, who knows where we take each other,